All right, here we go. So this is a 1939 Buick Roadmaster. It's a four-door sedan, currently owned by Linda Day George. She was an actress in Hollywood. Played on a lot of TV shows, one of them including Mission Impossible. That's where I've seen her before. But anyway, she had this car restored with her husband quite some time ago when they were living in LA, and her brother's son went and took it from her with permission, but probably wasn't the best idea, and he's kind of let the thing go. So it's been sitting now for several years in not running condition. So I'm going to documentate the process it's going to take to get this thing running again, and you know, some of the things that I see. You know, there's you know, it's like something in the paint right there. It looks like a bubble, some damage there, lots of scratches, little hairline scratches. I don't know if it can be picked up or not. A lot of it I think will color sand and buff out. But the car has been stored outside in Arizona for several summers. It had a car cover on and off for a few years, but nonetheless was stored outside. So Linda had this car restored to be a driver. It looks like they put an Oldsmobile engine in it, which and it does have air. It is carbureted. Looks like an old Rochester on there. And whoever did it did a fairly decent job. They put power brakes on it. Just kind of modernized it for back then. So you see a lot of you know, billet things on it, including the wheels, American racing wheels. As you can see, there is some substantial damage right there, which kind of sucks. This color is not an easy one to duplicate, so I don't know what we're going to do about that yet, if anything. But the car, at least overall, is not in as bad a shape as it could be, but for the quality that this car was when it was done, it's just a shame to see it let go to this degree. So it does have the suicide doors, and inside, let me get some light on it. It's all been kind of redone, and you can kind of see how dirty everything is, you know, which I guess if it's not your car, I guess it doesn't matter, right, if you take care of it or not. So the door panel was sitting back here. I took it out. Its door panel's on this side, but it's not on the front over there, as you can see. So I took the front seat out because that's where the battery goes. It goes down in there, which there was no battery. It was gone. And as you can see, it's got a bow tie steering wheel, La Carrera, with a bow tie button, I should say. Kind of funny, in a Buick with an Oldsmobile power plant. So that's so much for kind of the condition and what we got, and I guess we're just gonna have to wait to see what we end up with once I get a battery in it and start checking everything out and see if this baby's gonna run. Alright, here we go. We're gonna put this bad boy in the air and see what we got. See what she looks like underneath. So we'll come back once she's all the way up. Alrighty, so we got this bad boy in the air. So it looks like we've got a GM 10 bolt in the back. So it looks like it's been modified, the factory 39 frame, to accept the GM trailing arms. So this is the all original 39 Buick stuff here. There's the battery box that they added underneath the floor, which originally I think that's where the heater was. And these, they put the heater underneath the seat. So we got all factory frame. We got a turbo 350 transmission. She's a little leaky. It's got a cooler on it, so that's kind of cool. It's good. And we got a chrome oil pan on the Olds 350 motor. And this looks like a body subframe possibly. It's been grafted, and you can see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but right there is the weld from where the factory 39 frame here goes to right there. And then this looks like all just standard GM A body, maybe G body, not really sure, but definitely GM. We got some blocks underneath the spring on the right side, just because, hey, what old school hot rod wouldn't have that, right? So you can see some of the modifications that they've done. And the wheel well to make all that fit. These hoses are for the AC. A little tight. Got some stuff underneath here from it just sitting for a long time, not really being cared for the way it probably should have been. Look at that. My understanding this was a $100,000 build, and then when they painted the car they didn't even tape off the frame or the AC hoses. I don't know who does that, but to me that's just, I don't know, it's not the way I would do it. So yeah, so that's what it looks like underneath. I mean, not, you know, really too bad of a job overall. Definitely dated, way dated. I mean, Oldsmobile 350 with a quadrajet carburetor in 2022. Probably not, but hey, back when this was done, probably way cool. So anyway, that's it for now. Okay, back underneath here, I think I'm gonna start with the fuel system. I don't know if you can see that, but there is some stuff in there, but a lot of chunks. So we're going to drop down this fuel tank. We just got one line right there, and a bolt there, and a bolt there. And I think I can have this on the ground. We'll take a look inside next. Alright, so I took off the fuel filter, and these lines I had to cut them off. They're pretty hard, not too flexible. This one's not too bad. These ones right here are super brick hard, like they're just, you can see how they're stuck in that bent position. Like it's, if I bent it far enough, it would probably just snap. So that's it, disconnected from the, it's got like a booster pump on it right there. So those are gonna have to be replaced along with that filter. So carry on. Alright, so I found another fuel filter right there, and it's got a lot of stuff in it. A lot of stuff. It's right above the muffler, so it's in a convenient place. I'm not sure why they routed the fuel line like this. They kind of came, they shortcutted it. They came up on this side, and then around the exhaust right there, and then kind of down here past the battery box, and then kind of followed the frame up here. Usually you run them on this outer frame rail down here, but I don't think we're going to do much about that. It's just really more convenience, I guess. Somebody did that, but again, not the way I would do it. Alright, let's get this filter out and see what that thing looks like. Alright, so I got that secondary filter out. So I don't know if you can see the amount of stuff in there, but it's hard with this light. See if I can focus it down a little bit more. Just pull it out of the pan. Yeah, see all that? Yeah. So it's leading me to think maybe this tank might have some crud in it. Maybe. Alright, so there's all the stuff that came out of the filter. I don't know what it is, but yeah. It's one of those ones where you unscrew it. It's got the glass on. I've seen these quite a bit before. Still see there's some stuff stuck to the screen. So not the greatest filter, but you know, good for catching boulders. And if you look in there, you can still see some more stuff in there. This O-ring's all got cracks and stuff in it, so not a good place to have a fuel filter that has the potential to possibly leak, because right above a hot exhaust, you know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't be my first choice, but this is what we got so far. And I was looking, see if I can get the light now here. So up where the sending unit is, you can see sending units all silicone on there, which probably means, yeah, not good. Okay, so what I decided to do is, this is that one fuel filter I was telling you about that had a bunch of stuff on it, the one before, the electric fuel pump. Anyway, that's like 5/16 line, and everything else is all 3/8, so not a really good combo. So what we did over here is we just ran the line directly to it, replaced all the fuel lines, and then up above the muffler here, you can see, I don't know if you can see that or not, but yeah, a clean fuel filter now. So now we're gonna go check the front and see what we got up there. Okay, so as you can see, here's the continuation of that aluminum line, and it's going off there, and it's running up to the fuel pump, which is, well, let's see, I gotta change positions here, which is right there, if you can see it or not. So I don't know if the fuel pump's gonna work, but that line has definitely got to get changed. That rubber line you see right there, it's like rock hard. So time to renew another rubber line. Yeah. Okay, just something I wanted to kind of document on this thing, because you know, it's just a fuel line, it's not like it's important, but if you look, there's just like a little bit, like there's the end of the hard line, like right there, and you see where the clamp was right on the edge of the hose, some of it not even on there. So like, yeah, that's I mean, it's just gasoline, right? And oh yeah, that's the exhaust manifold. I don't know what could possibly go wrong, but yeah, so we'll take care of that when we replace the hose, and I think we're gonna reposition that line a little bit too. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the difference between the hose. This is the hose that was on the fuel line to the fuel pump, and you'll see that it's this 5/16, which is a problem because all the fuel line on that thing is all 3/8, which that's a 3/8, as you can see. That's a piece of the line that I replaced with. You can see the difference in the diameter, and you can see where this actually tore off of here after I had already undone the hose clamp. And just by the way, whenever you undo old hoses, you just take a razor blade and you try to split them like that. Just makes them easier to come off. But this hose, just from being so old and hard, and then also the wrong size, put on the wrong fitting, when I went to pull it off, even after I split it, it just ripped right off, because this is where all the stress was from that hose being overstretched. And you can see right there, that end, how overstretched it is compared to that. I mean, that is more in line with that size, right? But yet when you look at the two side by side. Big difference in size. So putting the wrong size fuel line on a vehicle is it's a problem, you know, just because it's, I don't know, gasoline, slightly flammable, or so I'm told. All right, so new fuel lines in there. So next will be put this baby back on the ground, and I already checked the engine oil. I'll check the tranny fluid and radiator fluid, power steering, all that. See where we're at, and see if we can get that Oldsmobile rocket motor to make some noise. All right, so we got it back on the ground. So I don't know if any of you know this about Buicks, but they've always had these latches on the side here for opening the hoods. They're butterfly. So the 30s had them like this. The 40s had something right here. We push the little emblem right here, and the handle comes out, and the hood raises up. And I think 50. What was it? 1 or 2, I think, is the first year where they actually went with a standard rear hinged hood. So this is really dark in here, isn't it? So anyway, I got the hood up. I'm gonna get some light on this. All right, let's come back to this. All right, now we got some light on the subject. We can kind of see. So we're just kind of, you know, checking all these heater hoses, making sure that they're not bricks. Some of these vacuum lines, like this vacuum line right here, very, very hard. So it's a good chance that that's a vacuum exit for the PCV valve. See, we got the billet PCV valve, cool. And you know, just make sure the belts aren't overly cracked or anything, just so that initial startup we don't lose a belt or blow a hose, right? We may end up changing those. So I'm gonna pull the cap here. Let's see what we got. If we have any fluid in there at all. All right, so I think we got the light secured on there. So we take the cap off. Not too bad. Look down in that hole in there. So let me get a flashlight while you look at the car. It's kind of cool though. I like that Art Deco look from the 30s. Very cool. All right, so I'm not seeing a lot down in there. You know, a little bit of mucky muck, but not too bad. So anyway, we're gonna add some antifreeze, some radiator fluid to it, and let's just make sure we have some tranny fluid on the stick, which, yep, we definitely have plenty. It's okay, I know I'm dripping some on the motor right now, but everything underneath here is going to get a thorough cleaning because it needs it for sure. All right, so let's put some antifreeze in it, and we're going to take off this billet air cleaner assembly and filter, because the filter looks like it might need a cleaning. It's one of those K&N ones, which I'm not a big fan of, but anyway, get that off and look down inside the carburetor. We're started anyway. We're going to be looking in there to make sure that we're not dumping a bunch of fuel once fuel gets to it. The floats aren't stuck or something like that. Okay, so we got the billet air cleaner assembly off of there. So here's our quadrajet. Just like I said, I'm pretty good with these carburetors, so got a pretty good idea how this thing works, and if it needs some help, we can certainly give it that, whatever attention it may end up needing. So you can see the choke is on, which is good. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be like when it's cold, but for starting purposes, we want to block that choke lid open. It is pretty warm here in Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm not too worried about cold start. As far as having the choke on, I'm going to be manually manipulating the throttle anyway, which is over here. I'll probably go to the other side. There's no fuel in the carburetor right now, because as you can see, there's no fuel squirting out when you pump. So this is the accelerator pump right here, and so when you throw the throttle back, right, it pushes down on that, which then squirts down in here. There's two squirters that squirt fuel into the into the primary venturis. And so the carburetor is dry, which can be expected. So there's a filter in here too, so I'll probably pull this off just to inspect that filter before I start it, just to make sure that, you know, it's not full of junk, you know what I mean? And after it's running for a little while, we'll re-inspect that. So we've got a few more things to inspect. All these vacuum lines, you know, we got to make sure we got ported vacuum to our distributor. And here's here's a nice little fancy T right there that doesn't look like it's done very well, I guess we'll just call it. So yeah, so there's a few things we gotta look into after we see if this motor's gonna fire, and when it does fire, is it a good motor, how she runs, and we'll just kind of go from there. So antifreeze coming up, and connect the battery, and let's see if we have fire in the hole. Alright, so just want to show you, I put about a quart of radiator fluid in there, and it brought it right up. So it looks actually really good in there, the condition of the fluid. So I think we're good as far as that goes. And yeah, so now just the rest of it, and we'll get into firing this baby up. Let's see how the rocket roars. Okay, so another thing I found is there's the battery, so I had to put a new bolt on there and get that spread out because it was all smashed together. So that's the battery cable right there for the positive, right? That's the negative. So here's the positive terminal that they had on there, and you can see, and there's just not much left of this thing. It's been way over torqued, and it's actually broken right there, and it's very thin style. So I've got a whole collection of terminal ends over here. This is from back in the day when you could actually buy made in the USA stuff. So you can see that run right there, how much thicker and nicer that is, you know, compared to these more modern, shall we say, communist made ones. So anyway, that's what I'm gonna put on it, and then hopefully get this battery connected. Alright, so just to go over it again, so there's something you don't see too often anymore in USA. So I bought these, all these as sort of what I've used since the 80s, which actually is not really a lot, being is that you know, nowadays most terminals aren't this style anymore. You can see the difference in the quality of these, and I can just tell you about the weight of this one compared to this cheaper version is pretty substantial. So alright, I'm gonna get this put on. Let's get some voltage to this thing. Okay, so here's another interesting little tidbit too. So a lot of times people are putting these cables on, these types of battery ends, that they'll use the wrong kind of bolt. So you see that bolt, how it's got a square head on it, so it looks like that. So that's designed so that it fits in this little slot right there, and then it doesn't turn. You just need a 1/2-inch wrench. The other mistake people make is they'll put the nut on this side as a special nut. So there's two different types of nuts that you can screw on there. One's just a standard, you know, just a regular, you know, you can see it just looks like a regular, you know, regular nut. This one has a special shoulder on it, as you can see right there. See that shoulder right there? So that's designed to go up against the battery terminal like this and push up against it, give you that space you need to still turn it while clamping down on that. So if it's just this style bolt right here, nut right here, going against there, it's going to start crushing that, and you're not going to be able to turn it because this is soft and the nut is hard, and it's going to start grinding into that, and it's going to start locking in, and it's just going to be more difficult to tighten, and you have a less chance of it actually tightening down completely to make a good connection. So just another pointer there on these types of old school battery terminals for those of you who still have old school batteries. Alright, so got everything in, and battery's connected. All the fluids are good now. So what we're going to do now is just do some cranking over, just to get some oil pumping in it and get some gas up to the carburetor and see what we got. So here we go. First crank in quite some time. I don't know how many years, but it's been a few. So here we go. So it sounds pretty good. A few more cranks. Alright, now we'll shut it off. And we'll go check and see if we got any fuel in the quadrijet. Let's see if we got any squirty. Nope, nothing yet, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to do some priming of the carburetor next. Get some fuel in there, see if we can get her to light, get that pump working quicker. Hopefully the fuel pump is good, but we'll see. Okay, so what I'm discovering here is, I think this is the fuel pump positive wire right here, and it had like electrical tape just wrapped around that wire right there. I was trying to test to see if I had power going to the fuel pump. Doesn't seem to be working, so like this is another taped connection and it feels the same way, like the wire is twisted and not really connected. And we had the same thing over here on the wiring. I don't know if you can see that there. I'm gonna have to get my other flashlight. But for the air pump, for the air shocks, you can see the same thing right there. See how I undid the tape? And you can see just the bare wires there, like twisted together with just a little bit of electrical tape that is unraveling on its own as well, because electrical tape isn't designed for that kind of an application, especially exposed to the elements. So yeah, we're gonna have to take care of a few electrical gremlins once we get this thing running. Okay, so after further testing, found that this fuel pump right here is not working. So it's getting power, it's grounded, it's just dead, which is common. So the solution for now, I had to order a new pump. I'd ordered a new AC Delco, the same one, just newer, one that works. So what my solution is for now is I'm going to take and I'm going to put in this barbed connector and this piece of hose here, and I'll just connect it directly, you know, bypass the fuel pump in other words. So I'll drop the fuel pump down out of there, put the connector in this fuel line here which comes off the fuel tank, and then run the other end of that hose that's connected to the barb down here to here, and then I should have a free flow of fuel up to the stock fuel pump. So it needs that booster pump to get the fuel up over the axle here. They've got the fuel line running up over there, so it's the stock fuel pump won't keep that suction on there, so that's why this booster pump's on there. So we'll bypass it for now, and I'll pressurize the fuel tank and get the fuel up to the pump, and then so it's not working too hard, and then we can again make that attempt, see if she lights. Okay, so I'll show you, got that bypass in there for right now, so I'm going to pressurize the tank, and you see the fuel pump's in there now. It's disconnected on that end and on that end right there, and I've just got this in there temporarily just to see if I can get some fuel up to the fuel pump and then try to get this thing started. So we are going to come down now and let's see what we got. Why not? Because there's nothing else better to do today. So here she comes. Coming down. I love the dual side mounts on this thing. I gotta get this thing on the ground. she comes. Now pressurize the tank. Alright, so some of you may be wondering how we're going to pressurize the tank. So you do it with the air hose that's connected to your Big Daddy compressor over there. And we're basically going to stick it in the pipe, but not just by itself, because you can see, that's kind of like a, a lot of air will just come out. So what you do is you just take a, a rag, it's a microfiber towel actually, and you just kind of stuff it in there to fill up some of that volume of space, and then you just kind of hit it, a little bit of pressure, like that. Now sit there and just pour it on. It's like 120 psi. You just want to give it a couple shots, and that's going to pressurize the tank and start shoving the fuel up towards the fuel pump. At least, help it make it that way. Kind of hear some of the air hissing out of there. Not totally leak proof, but it's enough to build pressure and get it going up that fuel line up over the axle. So I can smell the gas, so definitely for you smokers, don't do that while you've got a lit cigarette in your mouth or anything flammable nearby. So we're just going to do it a couple times like that. And that should do it. So now we'll crank it over a little bit more and see if we got any fuel at the carburetor in a short period. Alright. Now we're going to do some more cranky. This is down here. A normal 39 Buick would be the gas pedal. But like I say, this is a converted to an Oldsmobile V8 with an updated front clip on it. So there we go. Cranky. Listen to that. And it's running. How about that? Didn't even have to prime it with gas or anything. That's pretty good. Actually sounds pretty quiet. Don't want to really goose it too much. One thing about these old Quadrajets, they're actually pretty decent carburetors when they're decent. They do have some inherent flaws, but I know how to kind of get around all those, or actually fix those flaws. But you have to admit, that's pretty quiet and smooth, no choke on. Being fired up for the first time in many years. Very nice. So we go back here. Got our cap back on. Listen to that rumble. Smoking. Sounds really good. Awesome. So they're scoring some big points right there. That's actually pretty cool. So I like that. All right. So I've got a few other things to check. Still got to check brakes and pressures in the tires. I'm pretty sure that these tires are low. I put a little bit of air in them before I had it towed in, but you can see they're still pretty low. These are old tires, date coded 2003. So like that's like in dog years. It's even more like every year on a tire is like 10. Okay, so those will probably be going at some point in time, but yeah, I'm real happy about this. Fired right up, no noise. So next thing will be brakes, and then make sure our transmission shifts properly on a short little test drive, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we're going to see if we get any brake fluid. So you have to do that. Just put a little pressure on it, thing pops over. And this thing, which has been on here for quite some time. You have to give it a couple of wraps here. There you go. Pick it up and, oh yeah. So the front's low, front fluid. The rear is completely out. Okay, so I'm back here with the flashlight. Look at that rear reservoir. There's no brake fluid in there. The brake fluid doesn't evaporate, right? So it went somewhere. We're just going to have to find out where. The front's a little low, not bad though. You can see it, it's a little bit down, but that could just be from brake pad wear. So anyway, I'll have to top this one off before I can actually find where it's leaking. And again, that's just another issue we're going to have to look into. So there you go. That's why you just never hop in a car that's been sitting and expect you're going to drive it away. Alright, so now what we're doing is we're climbing in this thing. Sorry it's dark. And I don't know where the light switch is on this thing. There's a bunch of toggle switches and stuff underneath the dash. I haven't really figured out what all those are. I'm just going to run it through the gears basically. Right now it's in neutral. So I'm going to pump my brakes up a couple times here. Just sit there and pump them. And then we're going to shift into reverse. Just kind of let that idle for a few seconds there. It goes right into reverse, which is good. Back into neutral. And go all the way into low. Brakes are holding. That's good. You just want to get the transmission fluid circulating around in there so we can check the fluid warm, and after it's had a chance to go through all the gears, to make sure that it's not low before we take this thing on its maiden voyage here. So that's second gear right there. It is a turbo 350, so it's a 3-speed transmission. There's third gear, or drive. So it looks like the oil pressure gauge is working. Alright, there she is. The Oldsmobile rocket motor purring like a kitten. Sounds like maybe the bearing on the AC compressor might be a little noisy. Could be the alternator, not sure. We'll figure that out. But anyway, we're going to check the transmission fluid. We pull the dipstick and we wipe it off like that. So you can see where the level is supposed to be. It's like in this area with those little hash marks on it. You kind of see between the two dots. So we ran through all the gears. All the fluid's been kind of circulating around at the right warm-up temperature now. This thing's been idling now for about 5 minutes or so, and I can feel the upper radiator hose. The thermostat's open, it's circulating water, so that's good. Now we're going to pull this back out, and we're going to bring it outside here, and we're going to take a look at the level. So if you look, it's like just barely touching the bottom. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm trying to focus here and there on it. I want to focus in on everything else. But it's barely at the bottom of those hash marks. But yeah, we're going to be adding some transmission to it. Again, another reason why you just don't start it up and drive it. Just being that little bit low would cause the tranny to slip, and then now you've got some bad clutches. So, not good. Alright, we'll be back. Alright, so I just fired it up today. Just lit right off, no problem. And I aired up the tires. And we're about ready to take it for a little ride. So I ended up putting the door panels and all the door latches, they're all timed correctly now. So like on that side, I don't know if you can see, it's pretty dark, but they both have the same clocking, you know what I mean? So same thing with this one. The power window wasn't working, so I put this door panel on, put the new switch in, so now the windows roll up and down, you know, clock the door handle and the wing window. So they're correct. I got air in the really old tires. So I'm gonna take her for a little spin around the block, just see how she does. I think the brakes still need to be bled, but I'll just take it easy. It's no traffic or anything like that. So here, I'll open up this other door so you can see how the door handles are clocked the same now on both sides. So before, they were all just different angles, you know what I mean? Not that it makes a difference in terms of how it works, but in how it looks. So a lot of these things, they were stripped out, little connectors that hold them on. So I was able to get all those fixed. So now everything cranks and works the way it's supposed to. So anyway, pop this baby in reverse. And we're gonna back it on out. And this is its first drive in quite some time. And it seems like it's running pretty good. So I'm not super worried about just running it around the block around here. It's after hours. This is a commercial area, so there's not really a lot of traffic or anything like that, so I'm good there. This shifter's out of adjustment a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a lot of play with figuring out where drive is. I don't even know if the speedo works or anything, and no sense in buckling up because there's no seat belts in this thing. As you can see, it's kind of hard to see out the front window because it's really, really dirty. I mean, I don't know if you can see that line right there, but it's pretty slimy on the inside. Look, oh yeah, there's a clear spot. All right, so let's go down here. We're just gonna take this thing down the block a little bit, make sure the tranny shift's good, which it feels like it does. Brakes don't feel too bad. Definitely feels like the fronts are catching a little bit more than the rears. That's okay, we'll take care of that. Yeah, there's first to second, second to third, boom. So, yeah, this goes down the road pretty nice. Not bad. It's out of alignment a little bit. Steering wheel's sitting there at about between 10 and 11 to go straight, so it looks like the speedometer's working, but I would say I'm going a little bit faster than 10. That's just an educated guess of mine. So I'd say we're closer to about 25 or 30. Applying the brakes, seems to be stopping. So yeah, I think we're pretty good here, you know, as far as just driving 39 Buick Roadmaster. Seems to be doing pretty good. So yeah, so first drive in quite some time here. It's many years. So it's shipping good, stopping relatively decent, goes down the road straight, especially for the old tires on there. But yeah, so I'm gonna take it back to the shop and put it back in and do some more things with the brakes and a couple other things now that I know that I got something that's it actually handles pretty decent too. Not bad. I mean, for how huge this car is, actually takes a turn pretty nice. So, all right. Well, that's it for today. Woo! Safety first. Yeah. Alright, so here's kind of a shot of it outside, not in the dark shop, so you can get a little better idea of what I'm dealing with here. So, you know, I mean, it's dirty, and it's got some damage and stuff to it here and there. You know, some of the worst is down there, and then that right there. That really sucks. You see the old American racing wheels, the new old American racing wheels. I've got the dual side mounts. I took them out, aired them up, clocked them so that the valve stems now come out here. Both of them were clocked incorrectly. The valve stems were buried, couldn't even see them. So not that you'd be putting those on if you got a flat, but at least you can keep them aired up so it looks good. But anyway, this is kind of what it looks like out in the daylight. Well, what's left of daylight. You can see it's pretty dirty. It's been sitting outside in the Arizona heat now for a good number of years, which is really unfortunate. And I don't know, I still can't really see the interior too good, but I think I've shown you pretty good shots of that with the lights. So yeah, I mean, we got some, you know, got a few cosmetic issues on her. Overall, you know, the paint's not too bad. There's a little bit of paint shrinkage in the deck lid back here. I don't know if you can see it in this light, and then right there, that's not good, but not much you can do about it. Little ding right there. So, but overall, you know, I mean, I think we can make this a car again. Drives good. It's a good little test drive for it. But what a beauty these cars from the 30s were. Just that Art Deco style. Absolutely, just a beautiful, beautiful styling. You just don't get this nowadays. You know, Buick. What do you guys do? They don't even make a car anymore. I mean, how ironic is that? Buick was in the day, the definition of, look, I've made it, here I am, and now it's, oh, look at me, and another SUV that looks like all the other SUVs out there. So, all right, well, that's it. I think this is a good start. So next we'll be addressing some of the electrical gremlins and some of the mechanical things underneath the hood, as far as the vacuum lines and getting the oil changed, flushing the brake system, and a few other knickknacks, getting the spark plug wires so they're not, like, you know, rubbing on the steering shaft, you know, just little things like that. So time consuming, but important. So anyway, that's it for now, and until the next time.